women's sports fan is never going to quiz you about what you know or like how long you've been here or like, but they will tell you passionately about them and who they know and how long they've been here. Women's sports fans are like, come on, you're a fan. That's Trinity Rodman. Watch.
Such a good answer. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Teaming Up with Becky Sauerbrunn, brought to you by The Women's Game. I'm Becky, and this is a show where we meet people in and around the game of soccer, the leaders, the thinkers, the doers, and connect with who they are by talking about what they love and what they nerd out on. Today, we are teaming up with a delightful sports media personality, dedicated Boston sports fan, Celebrity Jeopardy finalist, and host of SiriusXM podcast, Casuals, Katie Nolan. Katie's Instagram bio says, I put myself out there for a living, and that is a humble way to say she is a master of comedy who dedicates her career to spreading her love of sports. She first gained recognition for her unique yet relatable takes on sports in her blog, and eventually went on to host shows like Garbage Time with Katie Nolan, which earned her a Sports Emmy Award for Outstanding Social TV Experience. She is funny, authentic, and when you listen to her podcast, you feel like she's just a friend in the car, riding with you to work, talking about her latest fixation in the sports world. Something I greatly admire about Katie is how clever she's been throughout her career to identify spaces in sports media that haven't been filled. Over a decade ago, it was women talking about sports in a self-assured and knowledgeable way, and it's wild to think that that was a revelation at the time, but it was. And now when you watch games, women are commanding the desks, leading discussions, and breaking down film. As you'll hear from Katie, she knew her path wasn't leading her towards stats and film, but to another unmet space, this one having to do with the fan experience. And more specifically, the casual fan experience. I watch a game from time to time, I follow some of the bigger stories and players, but it doesn't consume my day type of fan. Katie welcomes these fans, gives them a platform, keeps them engaged, that level of entertainment that they're looking for in their sports viewing. Katie herself is pure entertainment, and combined with her intelligence and authenticity, is truly a force. Here's my conversation with Katie Nolan. Enjoy. Katie Nolan, welcome to Teaming Up. I am so stoked to have you on the show. Right out of the gate, I need to address something. You are a fellow gamer, and for whatever reason, people are always shocked when they hear that I love playing video games. So I love action, adventure, Metroidvania type of games. I am so curious. What kind of gamer are you?
All over the place. I had an older brother, and so when I was younger, we would, theoretically swap off whose turn it was. But when it was my turn, I would die right away because he's 3 years older than me. He was much more advanced with his motor skills. And so most of the time I would just I'd go, you just play again. It's okay. And so I took a big break from video games in between, probably high school through when I got to college. I think I got back into video games because my roommate that I got paired up with brought an Xbox, and she was like, I play video games all the time. And we played Guitar Hero every day. We beat the entire game on expert, and then we switched, you can switch it to lefty. So we switched the guitar to lefty, and then in the mirror, we beat the game again on expert, but with the with the guitar on lefty. So I think the only thing I know about myself in terms of video games is I'm a completionist. Anything I do, I want to do it all the way. I want to get all the trophies I can get. I'll collect all of the things. My favorite type of game, I don't know the gamer words for it, but it's an Assassin's Creed or a God of War that has a storyline, but it also has a huge open world environment that you can explore. Once you've done the main story, you can still go and help the townspeople and ride your horse around. I play the midnight tournament in Rocket League, the 3v3 tournament with my brother and my fiance. We do that almost every night. And then I also, Call of Duty is just when my friends are on and I want to just hang out with my buddies, I'll sign on and play a little Call of Duty. But I'm not I love Call of Duty. It's just the game that's available that everybody has that takes up way too much space on my PlayStation.
You are just speaking to my heart. Okay, so rumor on the street is that you even named your dog Myrtle after your love for Rocket League. Is that true?
Yes. So there's a bot in Rocket League. Before Dan and I, my fiance, played online, we would play against the bots. And the bots have these team names, and then each of the cars has a name that's supposed to be themed. And there was this bot, Myrtle, that whenever we played against would always score. It was a real bugaboo for us as a team. It was a rival. And Dan would always say, like in the style of Ja Rule, I'm not going to do it justice, but he would say, "It's Myrtle." And so then we like got a dog that my friend was fostering. We were thinking, this was during the pandemic, we were thinking about adopting, and she brought the dog over to hang out with us. And Dan was like, you know what we would have to name her? And I was like, what? And he was like, "It's Myrtle." And so then ever since then, we've got a little bit. She's 5 now, and she hates Rocket League is the funny thing. When we start playing, she gets up and leaves. She does not like being in the room. I think it's because we get too stressed out.
Okay, I feel like we could nerd out on video games all day, but I'm going to table it for just another time. To start the show, I like to take listeners back to the guest's chapter 1 in the soccer world. Did you ever play soccer?
No, I stink. I absolutely stink at soccer. It's too much running. I didn't have the stamina. I had a lot of friends who played soccer, but I played softball. I like it because it's like run to the base, stop. Run to the base, stop. You guys, the back and forth of soccer, it's like a constant cardio workout, which was not for me.
You know, I am not a runner, and I somehow picked the
runniest sport.
Third worst sport for running.
Yes. Yeah, it's a lot of movement, and the field is gigantic.
It is huge. I'll give you that. I did hear, though, that you have a couple gold medals from the Junior Olympics, still gold medals in rhythmic gymnastics. Mm-hmm. How did you get into that?
Is that impressive to you?
I am very impressed by it.
So the dance center that I danced at, that I learned to dance, I think I was like 3 or 4 when I started there. And the dance center, like the director of the studio was like, we're going to start a rhythmic gymnastics team. She explained it to my mom as like it's gymnastics but more dance infused than say like artistic gymnastics, which is a lot of acrobatics and flipping and such. And she was just like, your daughter seems like she's one of our more advanced, I don't know, 4-year-olds. I don't know what they saw in me, Becky, but they were like, she seems like she'd be good for this. And so we were like, sure, cool, why not? And then it became my life up until high school. I stopped doing it in high school, but every Saturday morning we had these big long 3-hour practices, and we went to a couple like regional competitions, and then we went to the Junior Olympics, and this was in group competition. So it was 4 girls together, and we got a gold medal. I think we got a couple bronze, but the gold was in hoop. Our hoop routine got us the gold medal. It was fun. It was cool. And it's certainly an interesting story now.
Oh, very much so. Like you said, you stopped in high school, and then you did minor in dance at Hofstra University, where you graduated in 2009 with a degree in public relations. But after college, the traditional 9-to-5 office job just didn't seem to tempt you. You bartended and started a blog where you talked about pop culture and sports, using humor and your knack for writing to generate conversation about whatever it was in the world that week that had grabbed your attention. I can totally see you striking up conversations with your patrons at the bar, arguing why the Celtics were going to win it all this year. But did something just click for you when it came to creating and publishing your own content?
I think it was definitely informed by the bartender thing. My mom, when I was growing up, was a bartender my whole childhood. She had gone to school for speech pathology, but when she had kids, she was kind of like, my husband's at work during the day, so I'll work at night. So she became a bartender. And she would always listen to like sports talk radio in the morning. And I was like, Mom, we could be listening to music. We could be listening to like interesting stuff. This is back when it was on AM radio and you could never like hear it. It would be like, you'd have to wait for 2 minutes of static. I was like, why are we listening to this? And she was like, because it makes me better at my job. It makes me have more to talk to my customers about. It makes me have, it's conversation piece. And I think looking back at my life now, I'm like, that makes perfect sense how that got into my brain. After college, I went and was bartending and had been approached about starting a blog, and I started a blog and then it was approached about doing video. And I think just like, I love talking to people. I love hearing what people have to say or what they think. I love when somebody tells me what they think and I go, I don't know. And like, pushing back on it. Like, I love that playful, but not, it's like not confrontational, but it's also not like you're not going to get away with saying something crazy to me. Like, I love that push and pull. And I think it lives so well in sports. I think like people are so emotionally invested in sports. I had so many thoughts that were arising from these interactions and nowhere to put them. So I think the blog for me was like somewhere to just put all of the things that I was thinking. It ended up working out.
Yeah, I mean, humor became a signature staple in the tone of your work. And as you progressed from blog writing to YouTube videos to being discovered by Fox Sports, people were noticing how brave it was for a woman, like monster eye roll there, to be both funny and knowledgeable when talking about sports. And you seem to just be a naturally hilarious person. So why is it important for you to have comedy and humor as a through line in your work?
To me, it's the heart of everything. I think like making people laugh is the best feeling on earth to me. The way that you can be talking about something serious and then sort of just immediately release the tension from the room by making a joke is a superpower, I think. And it's the most rewarding interaction that I can have, is making somebody laugh. For me, I was never going to be an expert. I watch so much sports. I retain so little of what I watched. I like fully, when I'm watching a game, I'm emotionally present. I'm like living for every moment is like, I feel the whole thing. And then when it's over, I'm like, oh, I don't know. It was trying to tell somebody else about it where I'll be like, oh, and then was it the 5th inning? Or it might have been the 7th. I think there was a guy on second. I cannot remember the specifics. And so I very quickly learned, especially in sports, unfortunately, that people were always, for a woman, looking for me to prove what I know and what kind of stats I can keep and what I know about the history of every single. And I knew that I was always going to be more of like a generalist in sports. I wasn't going to be just talking about baseball or just talking about soccer. I love all of sports. I love what sports are. For me, it was like humor is going to be the thing because that can universally translate across all of the sports. There was never going to be a time that I was going to be able to be the expert. And I a lot of times have succumbed to the pressure of like needing to know everything. And I'll overwhelm myself with all these notes. And then I'll just be so flustered trying to make sure I say all the facts right that I don't experience the personality of it all doesn't come through. And so I think humor for me is like the thing that I know I am good at and that I know belongs in sports. And so that's why for me it's always just been like the key part of whatever I'm doing.
Humor is a common thread in your work, but not all your work. There are times when you've used your platform to call out injustices in the world, from the diminished role of women in sports media to domestic violence. When you decide to make that switch from humor to severity, what's guiding you in your decision?
My gut, I think. It's I remember the first time we did it was when I was at Fox. I had a show called No Filter. It was right before Garbage Time. It was like an online show only. I was watching a lot of sports TV try to talk about Ray Rice. And, a lot of sports TV is like a woman that hosts, or it was at the time. I don't know where we're at now. We might be going backwards, but it was a woman that would host, and then she would sort of toss to the men for their opinions. The men would get into a lively discussion, and then the woman would step in to go, we've got to go to break, and we'll be right back. And I was watching that happen with Ray Rice stuff. And I was like, I would love to hear how that woman feels about this, that you guys are debating his, merits on the field, when really this isn't about that at all. And so it was sort of just this frustration that then I was very lucky to have a producer at the time, Greg Rogel, who was like, you should talk about this. You should talk about this from this perspective. Why don't you jot down all the thoughts that you're having? And we can figure it out and see if we can record something and put it out. And I was like I think the scaredness of it, like when I get really afraid, usually comes after, once we've done it, where I start to go like, okay, people are going to see this and they're going to have something to say. But in the moment, it's sort of like, if I didn't say something, in my mind, you'd be watching me try to be funny and you'd be like, something's wrong with her. She's not mentally here. The times that I've had to break away, it's through much frustration. It's through a lot of like, I don't want to do this, but somebody has to, and nobody else has the platform, and so we'll just try it and go for it. So I would say the thing that guides me is probably my gut, my conscience, my just feeling like, as a woman in sports, the duty I have to women in sports.
Yeah, and the platform that you have that can reach an audience. And I feel with you on that one, because when it comes to a topic that I know is very serious, but also very divisive, me not saying something sits so heavy on my heart. Like, it really is a responsibility, but also such an opportunity to have this platform to be able to put good out into the world. So I just want to say thank you for doing that and for being
Becky.
brave.
Oh, thanks.
Yes. So you mentioned Garbage Time in 2015 with Fox Sports. This is also around the time where you came around to the right side of sports. And I'm talking about women's soccer here. In a Q&A with US Soccer, you said that meeting Alex and Sydney and Kelly before the 2015 World Cup had you, quote, glued to your TV. And 2015 was such an inflection point for us. We really felt like we had the team and the cast of characters and the personality to really capture people's attention. What drew you in as you were first getting into the sport?
Female athletes are so interesting. I just feel because of whatever all the differences are. I know a lot of times, like in sports, women will go to college for all 4 years. I don't know if that has something to do with it. Something about the way that the world is with your sport and the way that you have to be in order to get to where you are in that sport. I've never had a boring conversation with a female athlete. There's like an awareness of themselves and how important a moment is. And they're just an abundance of personality. I don't know if it's because the world has made women feel like they've got to be incredibly exceptional in order to be allowed to be a part of anything. You know, I think a lot of times with athletes, you're dealing with like PR teams or like their PR teams or like their own team being like, oh, he can't answer that question. And like, this was my first real experience of being like, they just are here. They're hanging out with me. They're game for a laugh. And then you watch them play soccer and you're like, holy shit. These women are incredible. And so, I mean, it got me so into the team, obviously. But like, yeah, from that moment on, I was like, what a fun team to support and a fun team to root for and a blast of a team to watch.
A part of it is, yes, I think society makes women feel like they have to be exceptional. And I think also just the state of where women's sports is, we all knew we weren't going to be making walking away money. So we all had to kind of be strategic in how do you maximize this like brief chapter that we have. And so we just really had to like make hay while the sun is shining. That is such a Midwest phrase that my mom uses all the time, but that's always in the back of our heads. Like there's going to have to be a next thing. Like we're going to have to figure out a next career or something. And I feel like that has added facets to people's stories. And that's
100%.
And we just wanted people to hear those stories because we were like, if people heard our story, we will bring them in and then they will watch us play soccer. And that is also awesome.
Yes. And it worked. It absolutely worked. I feel like people bought into that team and love that team, still love that team. But just like those years were special, like an absolutely special team you guys had.
It seemed like your enthusiasm for soccer grew from there. In 2019, while working on your new ESPN show, Always Late, you did a special episode where your producer surprised you with tickets to Liverpool to see them play at Anfield. You went to the local supporters pub, got a picture with a Jurgen Klopp cardboard cutout. You really checked every box for a Liverpool fan's perfect day. You said it had been on your bucket list to see a match at Anfield for a while. When and how did you get sucked into cheering for the Reds?
Man, okay, so it's a silly reason that I now regret. I now see how silly it is. So it was 2013 was when I got officially assigned this team. I was on a show called Crowd Goes Wild on Fox Sports 1 that Regis Philbin was on. But his co-host, who was actually the host, was Georgie Thompson. She's a British sports journalist. And she assigned each of us a Premier League team. And we were like, we don't really follow that much. We were told we were going to be a silly show. So Georgie was like, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you all a team. And she gave me Liverpool because Liverpool's owned by the same group that owns the Red Sox, which are my baseball team. Now, the reason that's silly is because sometimes as a baseball fan, you hate your ownership group. And now I like hate my ownership group and they also own my soccer team. And that's led to a very frustrating situation. But I ended up a couple years after Georgie gave me that team, I ended up dating a guy who was so into Liverpool. Like the only thing hung up in his room was a Liverpool flag. And he had like a Liverpool scarf. And it was like Liverpool. We would wake up at 7 a.m. to watch Liverpool. I am a night owl. I am never waking up at 7 a.m. And I was waking up and like going to bars with him and watching Liverpool. And Mo Salah was the thing that like hooked me into Liverpool because I was like, this guy is like, it's like magic. It's so fun and it's so beautiful. He plays with so much joy and energy. And I just felt like he made these things happen that I was like, what? I didn't think that. And just the way he would celebrate and the joy he would bring. I love Mo Salah. And so that was when I was like, oh, damn, I'm becoming a Liverpool fan. Like I was waking up on my own to watch games. And so when they surprised me with tickets, I had just heard about Anfield and how it was like this incredible experience. And I can't say enough about it. The people and the way that they care about that team, when they sing in that stadium, something about it, it was like chilling. I had like goosebumps the whole time. I had tears in my eyes. I was like, and then they ended up winning the game in a crazy way. But it was like that culture and the way that they are with that team, it was just so beautiful. I do still hate my ownership group.
I feel like that's a rite of passage for any sports fan.
Yeah. I have to be. I'm well within my rights to hate an ownership group, okay? They have lots of money they can cry into.
Exactly. What has been the most emotional moment you've experienced as a Liverpool fan?
I mean, when they won, it was either that or when I was at Anfield. It's hard to top how exciting that was. They brought me into a press conference before the game, and they were like, we're going to get you get to ask Jurgen Klopp a question. And I was like, I want to ask a question that's like a good question, but I also want to be true. We're here for my show, which was like a comedy show. And so I asked him a question, and I made him laugh in the press conference. And I was like, okay, I'll remember this for the rest of my life, making your own coach laugh. And he's just got such a great laugh and a great smile. So it was very exciting.
Do you remember the question?
I asked, so at the time we had bought the tickets, this game wasn't supposed to be that big of a deal. But then they had like kind of collapsed in a little bit of a way. And it was coming down to this game really, really mattered. And so I asked, I came here, originally made this plan thinking it was just going to be a chill game or a match or whatever. And I was like, and now I feel like there's a lot of pressure on you guys to win. As a fan, is there anything I can do to help you guys win this match? And he laughed and he was like, no, just get out there and enjoy yourself. There's a lot of great bars around. Enjoy yourself at those bars. And I think that'll help us. And I was like, thank you so much. He was great.
2019 was wall-to-wall soccer for you because the U.S. Women's National Team once again won the World Cup, and it felt like every media outlet wanted a bite out of the squad. ESPN had you do a skit with Megan Rapinoe, Alex Morgan, and Kelly O'Hara where you were their soccer mom. You picked them up from training, gave them juice boxes and orange slices, and told them to clean their rooms. It was super popular. I remember cackling when I saw it for the first time. I also just loved that my teammates were becoming so mainstream. It was a testament to the potential of our public appeal. We just needed a platform. What was your favorite part about having a role in amplifying the stories of women's soccer during such a successful era?
Oh, it was an honor. It was such an honor. I know, like you said, everybody wanted a piece. Everybody wanted to talk to you guys. And it was like, I still to this day can't fathom that I can run into any of you from that team and I call you my friends when people aren't around, but I know I'm probably exaggerating a little. But it was just having the ability to just be yourselves while I'm myself a huge fan of you guys. It was just a real honor to give you guys a space that's not too, I don't know, corporate or controlled by the media. But I also wanted to make sure it wasn't too yes, she can. Oh, she sure can. Women can do it too. It was I feel like a lot of times around women's sports, the messaging is very she had a dream and there's, a place for that. And I think it's an important message to send to young girls. But at the same time, you guys are badass athletes who are out there getting dirty, getting physical, and you want to win and you're here to compete. And I think that we should leave a space for that. And so, it was, like I said, and I can't say enough, it was an honor to be a part of showing the world who all of you were and just how talented and funny and interesting at a time like that of such big success.
The 2019 team had so many narratives running around it during that tournament because we were fighting for equal pay.
Yeah.
It was the whole, if we win, we're not going to go to the White House. And so we were getting tweeted at from Trump at the time. And then afterwards, we partied so hard because we had just won our second World Cup. And so we were just fitting all these narratives. And I remember just being yeah, we're aspirational. We're also athletes. We also want to have a good time. We are complete whole humans. And this is the experience. Yes, this is the experience that we're having.
Yeah. There's a picture of me from that, I think it was that year, that I talking to Megan Rapinoe at like an ESPYs after party, and I'm sobbing, and I think I know in my mind what's happening, and it's me going like, you don't understand. Your ability to do the equal pay thing and absorb all of the heat online from these people who were never going to, and have never watched you play a game. You are so amazing. And she just was standing there with my hands on her shoulders, just being like, okay, okay. I was like, I know this is a lot, and I know I've been drinking. I just need you to know. It's incredible, your ability, all of you, to deal with the noise outside while also staying completely focused and representing a country that somehow was yelling at you that they didn't want you to represent. It made me so mad, and it never seemed, I'm sure it affected a lot of people on the team in different ways, but it never showed. You guys always seemed like that's how you feel, and I'm proud to play for my country, and I'm going to do it well.
I was just so impressed with how she held herself and led that group. And then somehow, since then, you found allegiance to Gotham FC, and you're a huge Rose Lavelle fan. You co-hosted a show with Midge Purse called The 91st that I was a guest on.
Yes, an esteemed guest.
Oh, thank you. That covered the 2023 World Cup. And I get it. Rose and Midge are pretty cool. But of all the NWSL teams that you could have chosen from, why did you pick Gotham to be your club?
Listen, because I'm here, because it's here, because I'm in New York, because it's the closest. I have no teams from this area that I root for. In fact, as a Boston fan, I root against most of the teams that are close to me. In the NWSL, I am a little bit more, what would the word be? Like agnostic. I'm a little bit like in it for the league. I'm in it for the players. I'm in it for the storylines. I love Gotham. I have like 4 NWSL jerseys from different teams. So like I do have the ability to have allegiances to other teams, and Boston's getting a squad. And so that's probably where my allegiances are probably going to go there. Not to announce that here that I'm like leaving Gotham
Hot take.
As a fan. I just have to, it's Boston. It is what it is. But that team, in order to be successful, it needs an infusion of fans. And so if I didn't go, then people might not go, and then the team could fail. And I don't want that, Becky. I love the NWSL equally, I feel like. I love everyone equally. But once Boston starts, watch out, guys. I'll be out here fighting.
Something that I love about this sport is how easy it is for a fan's attention to spread from a single club to 2 different leagues to 3 different national teams because of the global nature of the game. Your career kind of parallels this narrative because your goal is to make sports more accessible and not this intimidating, exclusive club that it can sometimes feel like to casual viewers. Why do you think women's soccer is the right vehicle to drive that goal right now?
Oh, great question, Becky. I think it's a combination of the stuff we talked about before about how interesting women are and how different all of your stories are and the different things that you've had to fight through to get to where you are just to be able to play soccer. I just feel like women's soccer, I don't know what it is about it. Maybe you have insight to this. It's almost like a flow state you can get into watching it. It's just very beautiful. But yeah, I think soccer's just always been a good, like, come on in. Come on in, the world is here. Women sports fans have always, to me, had a lot of perspective. And they've also asked a lot of ownership and of, people in power in a way that men's leagues would love to have that, but they've just never, it's been that way for so long. In women's leagues, I think the fans recognize that we've got a real opportunity here to build a league the way we'd like the league to be. And I love that. Women's sports fans are passionate, they're psychotic, and in a good way. They're like so invested. And that's why I think it's a great place for people that need an access point to sports. A woman sports fan is never going to quiz you about what you know or like how long you've been here but they will tell you passionately about them and who they know and how long they've been here. And they'll share it with you in a way that's inviting instead of I know this and you don't and I'm lording it over you. And until you know this, you're not a fan. Women sports fans are like, come on, you're a fan. That's Trinity Rodman. Watch.
That is Such a good answer.
Hey, thanks.
That is
it was a good question.
so perfect. Oh, I love that. I do want to talk about your show Casuals because I feel like it's the perfect culmination of all your superpowers. Your comedic timing coupled with your analytic and cultural understanding of sports, combined with your authenticity, makes sports relatable to casual audiences in a way that makes them laugh and also puts them at ease. You took a break for a few years and fans were missing you and waiting with bated breath to find out what your next project would be. And since launching Casuals in January, you've received so much love and support from the fans and the sports community. What does it mean to you to have the support of a network behind you that allows you to be yourself and stay connected to your audience?
It means everything. I'm getting emotional. It means everything. The last few years were a little weird, ever since the pandemic. I know everyone's life changed during the pandemic, and a lot of people's life changed in much bigger and more scary ways than mine. And it was like I had just had a moment where I was like, at some point you have to admit to yourself if something's not working and if they don't want what you're bringing. So let's have that conversation. And so I took this break and at first stopped watching sports because my relationship with sports was so tied to my job, and sports had hurt me and it had hurt my feelings. And as silly as that sounds, I was like, I'm just going to take a break from it for a while. But I skipped a football season or two, and I would have never imagined doing that. It sounds insane to me even now, but I needed that break to then, I remember waking up one day and going, I miss sports. I want to watch sports. And I came back to it authentically. I came back to it like just a lady who doesn't know if this is what she's going to end up doing for work, but I fell back in love with it as a fan, purely. And once that happened, once I felt the draw again to watch sports and to be pulled in by sports, that's when I started to go okay, and everybody on earth I talk to can talk about sports. But the first thing they always say to me is, well, and I don't know as much as you. So I don't want to, they put their hands up and go, well, I'm no expert and I really don't watch that much. And then I thought about all the people that go to a baseball game, but definitely don't listen to a sports podcast. How many people in a stadium, they're not all going home and watching ESPN and watching MLB. There are some people that just like to go to a game and enjoy the game, and then they don't really engage with sports because sports is very insular. It speaks to itself. It has great language that they use to speak about sports, but sometimes if you don't understand it, it's not talking to you, and so you wouldn't consume it. And so the combination of all of that, me coming back to sports as a fan, me interacting with people who wanted to talk about sports and had things to say but didn't feel qualified enough to say them, and then me thinking about people that go to games and don't engage with sports content, I was like, that's a market that's not being served. Maybe it's not, but to me, let's try it. I was like, let's try to make a sports podcast that doesn't explain how sports work, that isn't like, this is what first base is. I mean, if a listener calls in and goes, hey, I was watching baseball and I do not understand the infield fly rule, I'll go oh, hey, nobody does. Here's what it is. Or offsides in soccer. Here's what it is. And we'll all learn together. But it doesn't talk down to you. It just talks in a way that's come sit. Some of it might go over your head, and if so, jot it down and you can call us and leave us a voicemail and tell us what confused you. But it's you're welcome here. And we can just be funny about this stuff without having to be experts. And sports are for everybody, and they're a great way to connect with people in your life that maybe you have a harder time connecting to. I can't tell you how often sports, like the Red Sox, have gotten me through a thing with my dad. It's that I can go, if something crazy happens, and I can go how about those Red Sox though? And immediately he's sharing, he's talking, and so I just wanted everyone to have access to sports because I believe in sports. It's the best of us as people. And so that was the goal. And I'm hoping that we're filling it. But I also just missed my fans, who are the greatest, nicest people, because most of them are women's sports fans, I feel like.
You leave no stone unturned on the show, hosting guests ranging from NASCAR drivers to MLB players to an author of fantasy football books. But my favorite guests are the incredible women you've had on the show, like Jen Powell, the MLB's first female umpire, Basketball Hall of Famer Sue Bird, and my personal favorite, editor-in-chief here at the Women's Game and former U.S. Women's National Team superstar Sam Mewis. I love getting to see strong women in sports get a platform to be themselves and have space to share their own takes on sports culture and current events. Why is giving women in sports a place on your show so important to you?
Because they rule. Because they rule, because they're great at talking, because they're interesting, because they have thought about everything. They've had to think about everything. They've had to think about like their effect on sports, and they've had to zoom out and look at like the global, where sports are. They've had to fight for it should be over. This all should be done. We should be in a world where this isn't a fight that people have to fight, but women's sports is inherently, part of it is about fighting for equality. And so I just find female athletes so interesting, and I find that they're so good at talking. And I feel like sometimes men have a thing of like, stop, when like the WNBA is on ESPN or ESPN talks about, and they'll go like, stop forcing women's sports on us. And it's like, everybody chill out, okay? You're not being forced. You have free will. You can go watch one of the other 3 ESPN channels that exist. You don't even have to find another channel that isn't an ESPN. There's other ESPNs. Now they make it so you can make your own sports center on the app. No one's forcing anything to you. Would you believe it? People like this. People like this and they want to watch it, and they've never been able to find it. The amount of cable channels I've become familiar with as a women's sports fan, trying to find a game that I want to watch. I had never used Ion in my life, and now I know where that is because I want to watch women's sports. And so I feel like having women on the podcast was really important to me because I just want to show people that like this is just like having a male athlete on, except potentially more interesting. It's just like these are world-class athletes who are also so interesting and thoughtful and just share a perspective that I think is so valuable to anybody listening to a sports podcast that like without it, actually, your sports diet would be lacking. You'd be like malnourished. You need to hear from female athletes because they're just so brilliant.
So nourishing. I love that.
Yes.
You recently launched a new daily show on SiriusXM Radio called Fan Service with Katie Nolan, where you take calls from fans and give them the platform to share their fandom and what they care about. Would you give us an elevator pitch as to why fans should call in to chat with you on Fan Service?
I'd love to. I think that being a sports fan is a communal experience at heart. I also think that a lot of sports media is about talking about the sport, the X's and O's, if the coach should be fired, all of that stuff, which is so important. I want to be clear. That stuff is important, but that stuff exists. And what I find has not existed is a place for a fan to call in and just be a fan, or a place for fans to litigate how fans should behave. For an example, the Phillies Karen. I don't know if this story reached you, but there was a ball hit it was in Miami, but it was a woman in a Phillies jersey, and she got somebody got the ball, and she went over and demanded the ball back. I wanted a space where we could go, hey fans, what is the protocol on a ball hit into the stands? Do you have to give it to a kid? When don't you have to give it to a kid? Call in, let's have it out. But I just wanted a place where it was like, look, I could talk at you for an hour. It's only an hour long, but I'd much rather have you call in and cry that your team lost last night, or call in and scream at the top of your lungs because your team won a game they weren't supposed to win. I want people who don't understand sports fans to have a place they can go to hear what it is we experience. The pitch for calling is like, you can literally talk about any sport you love. I'm just here to absorb the emotions that it gives you, because I think it's the key part of being a sports fan that doesn't get showcased anywhere else.
Where did you all land on when do you have to give the ball to the kid?
If it's like a monumental home run, if it's like this is, Aaron Judge's whatever home run, then like you can keep that. It's like people called it like a valuable ball. I don't like that because then you think about reselling it, and I'm like, well, I think you should keep it if you're gonna. But if it's thrown into the stands by like a player to the kid, it has to go to the kid. Don't ever catch it and go like, this is mine, actually. The big one was like, if it's a foul ball or it doesn't mean anything to you, and if there's a kid nearby and you both were going for the ball but you ended up with it, the right thing to do would be to give it to the kid. But you don't have to. And also somebody brought up a good point that if we said you had to, if it was a a rule that like you must give the ball to a kid, then it wouldn't actually mean anything when you gave the ball to the kid because you would just be following the rule. It actually is an opportunity for you to be a positive role model in that kid's life and change that kid's life. And choosing to do that is the important part. So we wouldn't make it a law. And I loved that. I was like, that's a really good point. So I think that's where we netted out. Yeah.
Okay. I like that. Katie, thank you so much for being on Teaming Up. This has been so much fun. The idea of teaming up came from a little thing called the Nerd Squad from my early days on the U.S. Women's National Team. We like to end our show by asking our guests, what have you currently been nerding out on? And I know we've already talked about your favorite video games, but is there a piece of art or a genre of media, a TV show, book series, anything else that's got you nerding out right now?
I mean, I had prepared to talk to you about a video game, but now I'm like, you're right. I really should talk about a piece of art. Well, I will say this. I just recently got the Libby app on my phone, and I've been nerding out about that because I didn't realize, and I think a lot of people don't realize, the public library system has an app through which you can borrow ebooks and audiobooks as long as you have a library card, and it is awesome. Like sometimes books, because of how the whatever of it all works, they'll only have like 7 copies and you'll have to put a request for something. But once it's ready, you get a notification on your phone that it's ready. It's downloaded to your phone. And then once it's time to return it, it takes it off of your phone. Like it is a foolproof. I'm obsessed with it. I've been going through and trying to get every book I've ever wanted on this app because I've been out here just buying it all. And I did not know with my library card, I could just get audiobooks on an app. So that I've been kind of nerding out about that.
And it's called the Libby app?
Yeah, it's just called Libby.
Oh, I love that.
It's sick. I think people need to know that libraries are awesome.
They exist.
And with this switch to like a lot of people read on their Kindle. So they're like, I don't go to the library. And you're like, well, the library can get you an ebook and it's on you don't even have to go if you don't want to, if you're not that kind of person who wants to go outside and interact with people. So the Libby app, I will say, is what I'm nerding out about.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you so much again for coming on. Really appreciate you being here.
Becky, you are the best. You are incredible. You are my captain, my captain. Thank you for having me. I love you so much. And I'm sorry I talk so much.
No, don't ever apologize for that.
It's so good to see you.
It's really good to see you too. She likes video games. She likes audiobooks. What is there not to like about Katie Nolan? She's a woman who has taken her natural talents and a passion for something and converted it into a career that she both loves and that is also very welcoming and relatable to people. The fan experience has always been her focal point when talking about sports. It's not about an athlete's stats or breaking down their film, but about how fans react and respond to the player. Sport has the potential to be such a unifying community, and Katie is doing the work to make it more inclusive, especially to the newcomers. Like Katie said, this community is about wrapping your arm around someone new and pointing to a player and saying, welcome. That's my favorite player. Here's why I like her. I think you'll like her too. She is now an official member of the Nerd Squad, which is what I like to call our quirky community that is inspired by the sightseeing, book-loving, learning-obsessed group of teammates back during my early playing days. Katie mentioned nerding out on the Libby app, and it reminded me of that phrase from the early aughts. There's an app for that. Super clever slogan. I feel like now it's more relevant to say there's a pod for that. I will watch a show and instantly search for a podcast that will dissect all the episodes so I can feel like I'm reliving the viewing experience all over again. Or I'll have a question about how to stop my cat from licking my face at 5 a.m. and can somehow find a segment from a cat behaviorist on that exact topic. And I love it. So this week, I've been nerding out on the very medium you're currently listening to, podcasts. Let us know what you're nerding out about right now. Email us at teamingup@meninblazers.com and join our Nerd Squad. Our quirky community is growing, and we're so glad to have you along for the journey. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back with more next week.